Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Coming to you almost live from the city of Relief, it's the Rolling Bad Podcast, episode number 163. It's July 7th, and I'm your host, Bill Costello, and with me today,
freshly dropped from the Mind Flayers Nautiloid, it's Joshua Alt.
Someone's been playing Baldur's Gate. Hey, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Do they have July 4th in England? Yes, it comes right
Yeah,
after the
every
3rd.
single year. Yeah. It's right before the 5th, I think.
I always love that joke. I don't know why. Probably because I'm simple-minded. Yeah. So today's show is going to be very, very abbreviated. It's going to be, I would almost say, filler content, because we're in that weird period where we've ordered AOS 4, but we don't have it.
Yep.
So it's an unfortunate thing. However, next week, all the downloads start to appear.
Yes.
So Monday you can get the rules, and then there's more coming on Tuesday, and I believe they've broken the 4 Grand Alliances up between Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yep.
And then Saturday, of course, you'll have the whole box in your hands, and you'll play the game, and you'll be happy, and shut up. Big brother has spoken. So, again, it's been an extra week that we recorded, and I take full blame for that, because I will admit now, I may have been a little weird in the recent past, but that was because I had a pre-screening for cancer, and it showed that I was positive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I had to do a colonoscopy, which I got done Tuesday, which actually came up clear. So that's why I said I'm from the city of Relief, because that's been hanging over my head for the past couple of months, thinking that I was going to have to figure out how to get rid of all my stuff. So anyway, that's not happening. But
And we're all relieved. Thank goodness.
me too. Thank you. But get tested, people. Don't wait until you're 50 to get a colonoscopy, a prostate, all that stuff. Do it. Do it now. So what we're going to do is we're going to record today, short show, and then we're going to probably record next Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
As we cuss and discuss and go, this edition is bull, or this edition is, oh my God. We'll figure it out as we get there.
It's bull-mazing.
It is.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Next week, we're going to have so much content. I mean, there's content creators going to be going 8 over all of it as it's being released. And so we'll fortunately have the ability to digest it a little bit more before we get into it. And of course, we can sit here and look at the models and, finally touch them and feel good about them, because we're not going to have them built or anything like that by the time we record.
We're literally going to pick it up Saturday and record Sunday. We will have read through some of the stuff.
Yeah, so I'm thankful we get the rules and the indices throughout the week. And Lord knows it's going to be a lot of reading, so don't expect us to be experts on each one.
No, but that will come in time.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
It will.
So, yeah, I've also been a little weird, too, because I was just in a week-and-a-half homicide trial. So
Yeah.
that was that was an ordeal.
I don't envy you, that's for damn sure.
I tell you what, I had the 4th off. My boss is great, so she kept the office closed on the 5th. Unless you had court, which I didn't have court. So I'm on my 4th day off in a row, and it's still not enough to recover from a week-and-a-half trial. So,
I believe you.
yeah, why am I a lawyer?
Because the phenomenal money in women.
Wait,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to get money in women from this?
Yeah, you've been doing it wrong.
Oh, man. Oh, I should have just taken the suits route, where I just, anytime I'm in court or having an argument with someone, I just drop a one-liner and walk out and button the top button on my suit.
Yeah, pretty much. Or what you did, you should have either gone into corporate law or sell your soul and go into family and do divorces. And just watch the money roll in the cars and the hot divorced women.
Yeah.
That's where the money is.
Hey, you're not my client anymore, so.
And it's just that easy. I'm sorry. I've known too many lawyers in my life that, all have avoided that with the plague, and whenever they consider it, there's usually an intervention.
Yeah.
And, it's like, no, you can't do that. Don't. Don't do that. It's only on TV that happens.
Yep.
So in the world of Games Workshop, 40K had a couple of changes.
Oh, a couple?
Yeah.
Yeah, the 7 pages that changed everything.
Like it's a new game. No,
Yeah.
Is it really that big of a change?
Some things were big changes. I think, gosh, I was rereading it this morning, particularly the whole like stratagem changes and stuff.
Yeah.
Gosh, that was something else.
And again, I think they saw that power creep starting to set in, and some of the stratagems being used in ways that in-house play testing won't really discover, because, you know, if you don't have that mindset going in of I'm trying to break this,
Yep.
you're not going to. And yet when you put it out in the wild, obviously people are gonna, and they're reacting to it. I wish they didn't have to react so across the board with sweeping changes.
Yeah.
Even insofar as movement changing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's one of those rip the Band-Aid off, get it done now, and move forward. So,
yeah, it was quite interesting. Some people got like baby changes. Some like your army's different now, like AdMech. Like, my God, it's so funny because you go through it and I'm like, okay, it's going to be like 1 per page. You're like, oh, no, it's not. You have Adeptus Sororitas, which is like this little blurb. And then it's like, by the way, we've completely restructured AdMech.
yeah.
You know, I thought that was really, really interesting.
Well, they really burnt the Sisters of Battle hard. I'm in a couple of those different groups, and, you know, there's people talking about their 2,000 point list is now 2,400 points. Yep. It's like, that's a major change. Mm-hmm. But again, all of this is in favor of balancing.
Yeah.
So let's see what it does. Mm-hmm. AdMech definitely got the glow up they needed to become competitive. And, you know, I saw 2 or 3 people at the store yesterday who were buying the AdMech codexes that were there just because
of the update.
They're playable now.
Yeah.
They're going to be fun. And I think they were playable before. They just weren't fun.
Yeah.
Now I think you'll have an enjoyable time playing with AdMech.
What?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you know, as one of the coolest looking armies, like they're part of the Imperium and everything, but like they're so alien in a way.
Yes.
And their models are so fun. You know, you have freaking like 50s robots from outer space, you know, type of stuff going on, and they were just falling flat. But now that they can, I mean, I'm not going to say that they're like going to be winning, like at tournaments and such, but they're definitely moving them towards the 50%, like towards the middle.
Yeah, they have been just at the bottom end of the scope for so long that they needed some kind of major glow up, and they got it, and it's good. That's good. Along with the base changes to the game, there's always consternation when these things happen, but again, I think it's this case of rip the Band-Aid off, make the changes that you have to make, that you can foresee are going to impact your design decisions going forward, and let it sink in, and, you know, just deal with it. Because,
you know, one thing that always got to caution like normal players for is like, don't meta chase, right? Like, you have the hyper competitive folks who do that stuff, or they're part of some sort of club that has all the armies, right?
Sure.
And so they could just swap them around. But like the average person wants to play their army, you know? And some people were taken to AdMech because of, you know, the aesthetics, the story.
Is so good.
And then, except for those stilt walkers,
that might have been a mistake. Yeah.
They walk above the radiation. All right. Okay. I know you have this like Mad Max style, you know, appeal with them, but a lot of people just loved how the army looked. I mean, I have a small AdMech force myself because of how they look, you know, and I really like them. But when you can't play your army and have fun, puts you in a weird position.
It's one of those weird, you know, you look at some of the very powerful factions, Necrons, I will say, for instance, there was a period of time there where they were just good. Mm-hmm. They weren't fun. They were just good. And people were playing them because they were just good. Mm-hmm. Now changes have been made. Things you're going to see, I think a lot of those people fall off of Necron. But now it plays a lot more themey. I personally feel that they made a lot of changes. A lot of these things they did was to capture more of how the Army is supposed to play.
Yeah.
And, let's face it, we're still in the first year of the edition. There's still...
It's crazy to think, isn't it?
Yeah, we're still baking through changes. And remember, we're going to go through this with AOS.
Oh, yeah. Try
not to get all salty when your faction doesn't measure up. And I will laugh as mine does. Anyway, no, I mean, there's growing pains. I don't care what you say, no matter what the game company. Parabellum with Conquest, they are constantly tweaking and pulling this lever and pushing that button to sort of bring things into balance. Mm-hmm. And I mean, everybody does it. It happens everywhere. So don't be a GW hater because all of a sudden your Sisters of Battle now cost 25% more. Mm-hmm. For what they do on the table, it's probably appropriate.
Yeah, everyone wants to have their time in the limelight where they win. They're just winning because my army's good now. But I mean, that's the thing. Sisters have oscillated a lot over the last year.
They really have.
Like, they started being not good, and then they got real good, and now they're still good.
Yeah.
It's just, again, they're trying to balance things as they go along.
But I think when they glowed them up the way they did, they made them into something you didn't want to play against.
Yeah.
Because they literally had all the toys, all the tools. It's not fun. It's, it's Death Troopers in Star Wars Legion. It's, yes, they're reasonably balanced. They're costed for what they do. They're not fun to play against.
No.
They are really, and if you think they're fun to play, then you're in it with the competitive mindset, not the casual, and that's fine. I'm not going to say anything, but don't expect to rock up to a casual table and expect the other person to come away from that game and go, well, that was fun.
Yeah, that was a great competitive game. We were back and forth the whole...
No, it was like, my stuff doesn't die, yours does. Deal with it. Okay, whatever. So, yeah, that's where 40K is. Lots and lots of changes. And in reality, that data slate isn't that long.
No.
The major changes are very subtle, but they are very major changes. Yeah. So read that data slate carefully. I mean, obviously the points changes are what they are.
Yep.
But go through that data slate carefully to see how the stratagem's changed, how movement has changed, how setting up has changed. Mm-hmm. A lot of little things that are going to alter the way you play the game, or, ignore it and just play it the old way. I don't care. It's up to you. So, yeah, that's where we're at there. Now we're going to take a quick break to open our sodas. Okay. And I will edit that out unless you guys want me to leave it in which case I will. I do want to, I took an opportunity before I had my test, my screening. The wife and I, for our 40th wedding anniversary, we drove out to Phoenix for fun. And I got to go to one of my favorite game stores in the whole wide world, which is Imperial Outpost, there in Phoenix. And I picked up the new, well, they're not new, they're several years old, but I picked up a set of Magnarax sliders for my 1520 case.
Okay.
So if you don't know what they are, the 1520 case is like the suitcase-sized miniature transport system from Battle Foam, Battle Systems, whatever they call themselves now. And I had the original set of Magnarax, which are just basically magnetic racks that fit into the case. But you had to pull the whole thing out to get to your models. Real nice that they were magnetic and super, their build quality is awesome.
Yeah.
Crappy that you couldn't get to your models without pulling the whole thing out. Now it's on slider trays, and so you just put everything in there, you slide the tray out, you set up whatever you want. Oh, it's so nice. So flippin' nice. So if you are in the market for miniature transport storage and transport, definitely look into the Magnarax for whatever bag size you need, be it the 1520 or the 720 or what have you. They're a really, really good system. They are expensive, but trust me, these bags will last you your gaming lifetime.
Yeah. Just don't poke holes in it or shoot it or something. Otherwise,
yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
I mean, if you're in that kind of a situation, maybe you should have left your toys at home. But.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, Anders borrowed my bag to take to Atlanta when he went out there for the narrative. And, that was super handy for him. But it'll be even better if he goes out there again and needs to use it. Because Magnarax, yay, sliding. Awesome.
Who would have thought?
The
same things that make kitchens more convenient.
Whoa!
Would make it more convenient for gaming.
This is so cool. Who'd have thunk it? So, have you created anything in the last couple of weeks?
No, I really haven't. Because I've been so deep in trial, I haven't really had time to do it. But I've also thought in the times when I did have time that I'll save that sort of hobbying energy for this next weekend.
Skaven.
When you're hearing this. Oh yeah.
So you're really gonna kill it? Get it? Murder trial, kill it. Okay. Wow, dad jokes are flying. All right, and I'm not a dad. Damn it.
Dog dads get close enough, right?
There you go. Yeah. Which I didn't do much. I didn't do much either because, like I said, I had that stuff hanging over my head, and we took the week to go out there and play. But I did get Psylocke finished up for Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Very nice.
I'm starting to work on 2 different teams right now, one of which is called the Russians. So go figure who's going to be in that.
Right.
And I had to paint up Magic because I had already done Colossus. I finished Magic because she's a linchpin of the Russians. And then I'm doing a different squad, which is going to be sort of A-Force Plus.
Okay.
It's going to be an all-girl squad. Not exact. I haven't settled on exactly who's going to be in it yet because there's just such a wealth of choices, and they all play so well. And A-Force leadership is pretty tight. So, did you see the glow up for Asgard?
No.
Oh dear God. Okay, so the new release is going to be Lady Thor.
Okay. Yeah.
And Loki, the new Loki. I believe both of them are leaders. Her leadership is way more melee focused, way more beat your face focused than Thor's. And in fact, her as leader, you almost want to have original Thor because it just makes his beat face pounding that much better. And it's really kind of I really like the way they approached the Lady Thor, making it completely different from Thor, but still giving Asgard a leadership that makes sense.
Yeah.
For what they want to do. And that's always been the problem is they have a great leadership and they have the great ability to pick up extra power and mess with the math of the game, but they've always been missing that ability to bump the melee. And now they have it. And of course the new Loki is pretty cool too. And, of course, somewhere after that down the road, we'll get Sif and whatever else. It's going to be awesome. Asgard players are going to be happy. So,
as a team that hasn't really developed for a long time.
Yeah.
I think
they were an original release. They gave them a little bit of change in the 2023 upgrade.
Yeah.
But not much. Not enough to make them. They're still a constant threat in the game. You can't just laugh about, I'm going up against Asgard. Especially if they throw Beta Ray Bill in there with Thor. It's like, ooh, you're playing the attrition game, aren't you? Yeah, no, we're not doing objectives today. Sorry, I'm here to kill you. So that's when you just Nightcrawler around the board and say, right.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, that's it looks like a really big, fun expansion for Asgard. And of course, the fallout from all of these new, really good characters. I have truly the Scarlet Spider is just everything Spider-Man should have been and now is. Really makes me want to go back to Web Warriors, but I can't. I want to, but I can't. So
Web Warriors is a really fun team. Like mobility all day and messing with your opponent's placements and everything. A really skilled Web Warriors player, like, not only can you not touch them, but they're like throwing you all around the board. Yeah. It's really entertaining to watch. Even if you're on the receiving end, you're like, oh my God, just like if someone combos off just right, like, dang, man.
It can be nutty. And, with the additions that they've gotten, as well as, the standard core, Gwen with her Lifesaver is just key to so many Web Warrior builds.
Yep.
But having all the tools that they have access to, if you have enough self-discipline to not try to become a brawly Web Warriors team, because, well, that dies. Mm-hmm. But if you play just that objective game, you can just dominate without ever really taking a punch.
No.
You know, you can go up against Black Order and just laugh at Corvus Glaive as he tries to keep up. And he can't.
Oh, God, yeah. They're a really cool team. They're a really cool team. But, yeah, the additions that they've just received, gosh.
Yeah, between Scarlet Spider, they've gotten such a good glow up. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's people out there saying that they really didn't need it, but they got it, so well.
Oh, well.
You know, X-Men are now, you know, I'm sorry, but that Chuck Nightcrawler, Kitty Pryde, those lists, you know, making Jean relevant again. And I'm telling you what, X-Men is such a tough game to play against because they can do everything.
Yep.
And, you know, I will say Xavier added such a dimension while being such a loser of a character. You know, he really is he's the anchor for an X-Men team. He is definitely the boat anchor. He is lousy, but that leadership is just so off the wall. You know, you really want Xavier to just be like, okay, he's going to sit on my back point and score as well as provide leadership. And a lot of times he can't even do that. But it's what he brings is just so off the hook.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the characters they had to be real careful with, like, with how powerful he is, you know, like, in the comics and everything.
Comic, yeah.
Like, I mean, what would his abilities be, you know, other than, like, control target enemy character for the rest of the game? I mean...
Yeah, or, you know, on a certain, if I have 10 power, I take control of your team this turn.
Yeah.
Well, that's not fun. But it's what he would do.
Yep.
What gets me is and I've heard very few comparisons, and I've thought about this for quite a bit. You compare Magneto and Xavier. Mm-hmm. Magneto is super powerful, super strong, in your face, beat you to death. And Xavier is wimpy and is an anchor for your team. He basically eats up a chunk of points, almost a quarter of your points. He brings very little to the table, except for the fact that what he brings is what lets you win the game.
Yeah.
And keeping him alive. And, you know, you're always in that point of, if the enemy goes after Xavier, you're just sitting there going, okay, I'll score all the objectives and I'll do everything else to win the game.
Yeah.
Whereas if they ignore him, well, you just get that for the whole game. And it's tons of fun. Now, if you put Xavier too far forward, or if you do something dumb with him and you lose him, that's on you.
Yeah.
But he's a tough piece. X-Men are not easy to play when you're using him. Mm-hmm. Nightcrawler makes it a little bit easier, but again, he can get focused down so fast.
Yeah.
But you have to devote yourself to it. And when you're doing that, you're not doing other things. So it's balance. It's the game. It's fun. Did you play any games?
Played some video games. That's for dang sure.
I was going to say that's a dumb question. But.
Right. Not at all. But I have not played any actual tabletop games. You know, like I said, just waiting for 4.0 to come out. And well, I've watched the videos and like on the rules and stuff. It still is not fully congealed until I actually can read them.
Right.
Particularly because they're written like criminal procedure based on what I've seen, or civil procedure, whichever one. Just because of they took what they did in third and like it went next level. We'll talk more about that in the next section. But
yeah,
I need to see it. And so, well, tomorrow I'll be able to look online. So
tomorrow it'll be there.
Excited about that. But yeah, we'll talk about my video games after dark.
Yeah. So for me, gaming wise, again, nothing. I've sworn off AOS until next week.
Yeah.
I did take the opportunity to reintroduce the wife to Shatterpoint. So we played another game. A lot of fun. She started to grok it a lot more. She got it. I do want to make one update about, I know when Ulf was here, we talked about I was going to have her go through Darktide.
Yeah.
And the result from that was reasonably simple in that it's just too simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too dumbed down.
Yeah.
But again, it's effective for the target audience.
Okay.
Which is this weird dichotomy because the target audience is the younger, newer gamer who doesn't have a lot of experience with any kind of miniature skirmish tabletop sort of game. And at the same time, you give them models that have to be assembled and built in the GW way. And that's not always intuitive and fun. So it's this weird double-edged, we're trying to make a very introductory game to get people into the hobby. And at the same time, we're going to say, oh, but before you can do that, you have to build all this stuff. Now, granted, it's push fit and all that, but it's still a turnoff. They still need to get a introductory game that has pre-built models in it. Sorry, GW, that's what you need to do. Stop thinking that you're going to capture the hobbyist right off the bat.
Hey, I can say, though, if you're playing like Blitzball or something, the Halfling team is practically pre-built.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But I hear you on that. It is a tough balance. I mean, part of the hobby is the building aspect, right? Some people love that part. There are times where all I want to do is just build the models. Like, I don't want to think about playing or painting them, right? It's like that Lego feeling.
Yeah.
You know? So it's tough, right? Because you want people to see, hey, this is what the hobby's about ultimately. Yeah. But then there are people who don't want that, or who just want to like sit down and play a game.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's where, Warhammer Underworlds, I think between Underworlds and something like Darktide, which I don't think they're going to support going forward. I think that was a one-off. So, and it should be a one-off. It should not be something that has ongoing support. But you look at Warhammer Underworlds, which is an incredibly fun game. It is supremely challenging, highly competitive, really, really well balanced. And yet that gatekeeping aspect of saying, I could pick up a board game at the store, like, Fortune and Glory, or just any number of different games. And all I do is open the box and start playing after I watch the video. Whereas with this game, I purchase it. Now I have to go home. I have to build all these models. And granted, I'm probably not going to paint them because I just want to get to playing. But we're still looking at an extra hour, maybe more, to cut these things and build all of this stuff. Have at least one set that comes out where you take the shrink wrap off and start playing the game.
Yeah.
And, catch people that way, I think would be an option they need to look into. And I'm sure they're smart enough to know that, and they probably have plans, because not everybody wants that hobby aspect. There's a huge board game community out there.
Oh, yeah.
That wants to buy a game, open the box, start to play. And they don't want to fiddle with this, that, and the other thing, and cutters, and I have to buy this, and I have to buy that, because I don't have sprue cutters at home. Come on, guys, think it through. Do it. I said it. Do it. But yeah, so like I said, taught her Shatterpoint. Had a lot of fun. She's starting to really grok it. She's starting to, I have already been told that I have to build both of the Ewok boxes now, because that's what she wants to play going forward.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, she's tired of playing Anakin and Ahsoka, and I'm like, how can you be tired of those? But anyway, I'll build those up and paint them for her, and we'll see where it goes. I'll build Death Troopers.
That's a fun little Ewok force you got there. It'd be a shame if you were fighting Death Troopers.
People that just ignore little things. I do love the way that game swings back and forth, though. It's so engaging, and it keeps you into it the whole time you're there.
Yeah.
It's you never just sit there and look at the game and the board and go, well, I've lost.
Yeah.
Because you never have. You won't, unless you do something mind-bogglingly dumb, which, I will do eventually.
We all have our moments.
Don't we, though? All right, shall we take a quick break and then jump into our lore section?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Stormcast are cool.
Okay, it's time for our abbreviated lore section. And we're going to split this up into two chunks. We're going to talk a little bit about AOS 3. What did we like about it? What did we not like about it? And then we'll go into AOS 4. Again, more of what we're looking forward to now that we have more and more information. And what are we dreading about AOS 4.0? Because we know, and we've been burned once or 4 times. So
40,000 times.
40,000 times. So AOS 3, what did you like about it? What did you like about this last edition?
It was interesting. They were trying to do some very, I want to say, like sort of progressive things, right? Like having the sort of the seasons where certain things mattered more than others, right? So we come in, we have the monster season, right? We're in Gur, we're doing all this stuff, right? This is super important for story. But having it when it was like the monster stuff, the idea behind that was really cool, because who doesn't love the monster models, right? Like, yeah, I love, building up all my rats and stuff, but hey, I've got Thanquol and Bone Ripper. I've got, my Vermin Lords, or hey, I've got my guy on top of the dragon that I want to play with. Name whatever faction you want that has that, but
sure.
And those are the cool things, right? Like those are the cool big toys. And historically, I mean, they weren't really that good. I mean, most monsters, hit on 4s, save on 4s. You have a little bit of Ren, the monster just drops, right? But focusing it in to give them more capability, I thought was a really fun thought.
Yes.
But what it did for people who are more like competitively, situated, is that it was Sons of Behemoth and then whatever can take down Sons of Behemoth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it had that weird effect on what people were playing at the higher levels, right? I'm not necessarily saying that that's like casual or local stuff, right? Casual local was still like, this is the army I like to play, and now my monster does a thing.
Yeah.
Then, transitioning, to the, the Galicians.
The Galician veterans and then the Galician.
That was messy.
Oh, God.
I did not like that.
No.
It's sort of this weird, almost like blip in my memory almost, when that was, the season. Because that's also about the time that like the Skaven book came out for AOS 3.
Yep.
I'm looking into all that stuff. And it was just sort of this weird space. But then they move into the wizards and all the fun that we got to do with them, at the end of the edition. I mean, some of that stuff was cool. Like Hoarfrost was strong.
Yeah. Hoarfrost was the only thing that mattered.
Having the additional primal dice and things. They were really playing with some ideas throughout it. And I like the concept. The implementation is what became the issue, right?
Yeah. I have to go with the thing that I did not like about AOS 3 was the general's handbooks. From the time the game came out, the battle packs were absolutely terribly thought out. Mm-hmm. And everything that they tried to do with each battle pack backfired in such a huge way. And their inability to see how that would be twisted and broken just boggled my mind. Now, at the core level, if you were playing very casually, all of these battle packs were fun, and they added something to the game. What they did at the mid-range competitive and up to the high-end competitive level was they skewed the game so much that they then had to come out with faction changes that were, again, ill-conceived and were only there because tournament results were getting so skewed.
Yeah.
And is that where you should aim? And there's that part of me that says, yes, the game has to be at a competitive level. It has to be balanced for that few hundred players that are that concerned about it. But what did you do to Joe Casual Garage Gamer? You basically gave him a set of rules in a battle pack that, again, once I stopped using the battle packs, I went back to having a lot of fun with the game. I could not stand the battle packs. just in this edition, they were so ill-conceived. Again, they were trying to push the boundaries. They were trying to do new things, which is great.
Yeah.
But have that ability to kill your baby. Take a step back from what you just wrote and really look at it. And then, I don't know. I know you don't want to do out-of-house testing anymore because you've been burned by it.
Yeah.
But literally give it to some people you trust and let them give you some honest feedback, the feedback you're not getting from your staff.
Yeah.
Your staff who is not going to play outside of the boundaries you've already set. Oh, the Galician.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Was that just when you're using battle packs to hide the problems with your edition and the way you wrote your battle tomes? Take a hard look. And, they did. Now we have AOS 4.0, and let's hope. Well, we're not in that section yet, but we'll get there in a second. But I found AOS 3.0 to be a lot of fun when you got rid of the battle packs, except for the one in the core rulebook, which, let you play the game. But crutching yourself and requiring a battle pack to play your core rules.
Yeah.
Bad idea. Really bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the concept in terms of like what they were looking at, I thought was interesting. Right. Like I said, the monsters thing, I thought the monsters thing was cool in concept when it was like, as we said, as it drilled down, like it came to Sons of Behemoth or what beats it.
Yeah.
But the idea of making your big fun toys, right? Relevant other than, like your god characters, right? But like, making it so that they actually have some bearing in the game was great until it wasn't.
Well, when you gave the monster hunters such an ability to simply negate monsters, you took away the fun of what you just did.
That was the issue. And the thing is, they would in each one of the GHBs, right? They sold you the problem and the solution at the same time. Which you're like, all right, my monster does something, and someone's like, cool, I just have the Monster Hunters Regiment, and I'm gonna go stop your monster, and everyone's like,
God dang it.
Yeah. Or you're playing, Sons of Behemoth, and when that stuff that dropped for King Broad's Army of Renown, and everyone's like, yeah, I can just tow onto this thing and like launch myself across the freaking board, right? It was just
which honestly is the way Sons of Behemoth should play at a normal level. That's the way they should be. It should be like, you're kidding me, right? That didn't really just happen. Oh, no, it did.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Did you just pick up 4d6 to do mortal wounds? Yes.
See, I didn't mind so much about like the damage. The thing about them like towing on to a piece of terrain that, like, let's say takes up, the middle part of the board, activating an ability and then like launching themselves and all the other Sons of Behemoth that were towed on to that thing across the board was just like, okay, guys, you should have read that. Because even before anyone started playtesting it, everyone was reading it going like, well, that means I can just teleport. I get a free teleport.
It's a giant teleport.
Oh, Lord. It was just, they fixed it really quick, and they fixed it appropriately.
Sure, they did. They got it, but it should never have come out the way it did.
Yeah. So, like, a lot of I don't know, I felt like when we were getting near the end, right, it was, I mean, they were pretty much throwing their hands up because AOS 4 is dropping, right? And so they're just kind of like, yeah, just throw all this stuff out here, and we'll see what happens. They kind of did the same thing with the story, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even care about the Dawnbringers. Like, after all those books and like where we ended up and all this stuff, like, who cares?
Right.
Who cares? That was my major issue with this edition, was the narrative aspect.
Yeah.
Because you and I mean, we covered that ad nauseum. The book would come out, you and I would dive into the Path to Glory, all the narrative stuff, right? One, no one ever plays any of the scenarios.
Yes.
Right? No one's going to, because no one would necessarily want to give you a leg up, or, what kind of benefits you could get from it. But then, like, it was the haves and the have-nots. There were times when they, like, put love into those Path to Glories and Fire Slayers. We talk about that. It's still the best Path to Glory this edition.
Yep.
Nothing rivaled it.
Nope.
Even with the Dawnbringers, giving Cities of Sigmar like 5 books of Path to Glory. It still didn't even get there.
Paled in comparison.
Because it was captured them,
Yes.
And this was apparent when they released Flesh Eaters.
Yeah.
Like when that book dropped, we looked at that Path to Glory and we're like, really?
Yeah.
Of all the things.
Mailed it in.
Yeah. Like not even that, they just like looked at some like abilities on War Scrolls and we're kind of like, let's make that a narrative thing.
Yeah.
It was disappointing to see that. And it's, I think, very apparent that they probably wanted to invest into some narrative.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the moneymaker.
It's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no one was really getting into it because they didn't make people want to get into it.
Yeah.
They had the really cool things like if you're a Fire Slayers player, I mean, like, yeah, you had a rough go, right? This edition. But you had the coolest narrative. And other times they're like, I don't really care about Night Haunt. So like, yeah, they can haunt territory, I guess, and get something from it.
They ghostly take over your territory. Okay. Yeah, sure. Whatever. It was very hit or miss. And it really depended on, I think, what team got the Path to Glory for a particular book, or it could be just one person. I don't know. But it was just so, I don't know what you're after. I don't know what your overall goal is. And the Path to Glories in this edition pointed out to me that they did not have an overall goal.
Yep.
They did not have a Phil Kelly saying everything has to funnel to this point. Everything has to aim to this area. And this is where we're going to be when it's all said and done. And I think that him not being there to do that it was telling.
Yeah.
And it was sad in a way, but I think overall the edition without the battle packs, and I'm not saying without the General's Handbooks, but without the different battle pack portions, because the General's Handbooks did add a lot of interesting stuff to the game.
Yeah.
In terms of scenarios and rules cleanups and, obviously point changes and all that, but those are much easier to do now for them. They lacked coherency. And something that I've noticed with 10th edition 40K, and I'm really hoping for going forward, is that coherency, is that consistency across the board. So let's move along into AOS 4 now, because we're kind of pointing out the flaws in 3, which gameplay wise, I don't think 3 was that bad.
No, like I said, you go to core rulebook, and it's a great game. At its core, it was a great game. But then when you start doing those overlays on top of that, and the pieces don't quite match, and that's where it became an issue. But with 4, what do you think?
Well, so I think they're truly starting to embrace that mentality of the game has to be a lot more playable, a lot faster to play. It has to be streamlined. And they went down that road. They went down the 40K road. It's, undeniably 10th edition 40K is far easier to play than almost every other edition. And from what I've seen of the rules for 4.0, they have gone down that road.
Yeah.
They have said, we have Games Workshop core mechanics. You will always roll to hit. You will always roll to wound. You will always have some sort of save. These will be on D6s. Oh, dear God, invest in something else. But, this is what we've got. This is our core. But we can also make it a lot easier. Just getting rid of the reach for units.
Yeah.
And saying,
that was important.
Everybody is 3 inches. Thank you. And yes, I know if I have a model with a spear, it should have more than, the guy with a dagger. Understand. But for gameplay purposes, let's just make this easier. We're not trying to do the computer game.
Yeah.
We're trying to do a tabletop game. Let's make it take less than an evening. And that's what I really like, that they're getting into this idea of get rid of the things that add a little bit of flavor, but a lot of complexity. Get rid of it. We don't need it. And I think there's going to be him and Han, and there's going to be anger about certain things not being present, and the way magic works isn't the way it's supposed to. And you know what? Just play it, get used to it, and then form an opinion. I'm not telling you right now this is going to be great. I'm telling you it's going to be different. But from the overall look of everything that they've released to this point, it really looks solid to me. Like it's going to be a lot like Conquest. You know, once you've played a game of Conquest, you know Conquest inside and out.
Yep.
You may have to look up a special rule here and there, or, you know, what's the effect of this? You may have to look that up. Yeah. But mechanic wise, you're done. You've learned the game. It's in your brain.
Yeah.
And this is something that AOS has needed for some time.
Agreed.
Is, hey, you have a ward save, period. Stop. No more. You have a ward save. Roll it and then take your damage. And let's make it all very simple. Here's your cohesion. Here's your movement. Here's this, that, and the other thing. And let's get away from this out of cycle. Oh, I do this and this and this out of turn. It's just making the game take longer. And I have to say, looking at all the spearhead rules, I am so down.
Right?
I mean, I don't like all the spearheads. I mean, they have the book at the shop. You can look through them all. I don't think they're all super representative of the army.
Yeah.
But I also do believe that that's a marketing decision, not so much a gameplay decision. We have to get rid of some of these sprues. Well, I mean, let's be real here. It's true in some cases, but also it's going to give you the flavor of the army and let you know if you want to invest in it.
Yeah.
And something we're going to talk about in After Dark is whether or not games of this scale, this size, are dying out. And I have arguments on both sides saying yes and no. But I think the Spearhead is going to be where a lot of the casual play goes to. A Spearhead game you can knock out in an hour and a half, unless you're playing me, in which case it's 3 hours. But it's a great idea. And I think just from looking at the implementation thus far, it's going to be off the hook, especially when you consider that the spearheads that are in that Jade and whatever book are not the only ones there. They're going to be able to put spearheads into every White Dwarf if they want to.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they can just put them up on the website and just have all these different ways of showcasing different armies. And, you want to, all of a sudden you want to showcase, I don't know, Idoneth Deepkin. Do a White Dwarf with 2 new spearhead forces and some fun rules with them, and you've breathed new life into a faction.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they need it. It was an example. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping to God they don't go into this. Oh, the General's Handbook has this completely alternative way to play, and you can have, Axian regiments. And no, don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
So Spearhead is definitely one of the main things I'm looking forward to. Quick pickup games you can play a lot of, games that are friendly to the new player and the advanced player alike.
Yes.
Ones that likely require, let me double back. One thing looking at 4.0, from what I can tell, is that it has the entrance is a low skill entrance, right?
Yes.
It's very friendly to the new player, particularly Spearhead. And it's also friendly to the developing player because of the modularity, right? The separate modules they put in there. Which means that if you look at it as a whole, it is a high skill ceiling.
Yes.
So that is really important for longevity in a game because you want to have the ability to continue to grow as a player in the edition, right? And one of the things I used to do in the past is that, things have been solved essentially. So here's a GHB. Right. But with even just the modularity, tournament organizers can have a lot of play with what modules are active in the tournament itself. And so, someone's like, God, I should say this. I don't see any army right now. It looks like we have the spell doms, right? And we're not going to have this. I hated the save stacking so much.
Oh God, yes.
It's not, it doesn't seem apparent that that's going to be the issue now. Right. And every single unit has its role, and they play their roles really well. And as long as they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're effective, but then you're going to have a separate unit on your opponent's army that's made to take out that unit, and having that interplay and being able to understand what does what and where, that to me is promising that just base game, right? All the things that they tried to do in the past with General's Handbooks, right? And make us spend all this extra money. All of that type of play is already here, and it's going to have a lot longer of a lifespan.
Yes.
Because you can have that person come in, and even if they remain casual their entire sort of career in the hobby, they still have places they could go and grow and things they could try. And then for those who are competitively situated, there's just so much to do there, like to work up towards, the fact that, like a TO could pull a module, right? And suddenly you're like, how are you going to think about your army now?
Yeah.
I love that.
It's so key to making the game approachable at every level. And I think you hit the nail on the head, is they have kind of, at the outset at least, they have sort of future-proofed the game.
Yeah.
And as long as they stay inside that headspace, we'll be good. We'll be all right. I hope, and again, you mentioned this, where every unit has a thing that it does and does well, and that's something that's been missing from the game. Part of that problem is that the game is so old, and there are so many units, and especially in the world of the Stormcast, we all were up in arms when they retired so many models.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, some of them were so redundant, it hurt.
Yeah.
And let's go back to now, I will use the Doomfire Warlocks as the example of a unit that is forced down your throat with every Daughters of Cain box. You get Doomfire Warlocks, whether you want them or not. And in every edition up to now, you have not wanted them because they are not good for anything. Now, all of a sudden, they have value, and they have the thing that they do. And it's still your choice whether you want to bring that thing into your army. You don't have to, but there's going to be, like you said, these opportunities to investigate. What about a Doomfire heavy Daughters of Cain list? Can someone counter that if they're not expecting it?
Yeah.
If they don't see this tactic coming, will they be able to handle it? Mm-hmm. And as long as all the edition is doing is asking the questions, and as you alluded to earlier, not providing the solution at the same time, I think we'll be in great shape.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of thought process, right? Where you're like, all right, here's some new stuff. Now everyone has to problem solve, right? How do they handle these things? As long as it's not like a completely broken, ability and stuff. That's the one thing, because we kind of saw this in 40K, right? Whoever, for the most part, whoever's codex dropped, right? All of a sudden they were Billy BA, right? And they were just wrecking face, and they had to very quickly reel things back and modulate change, right?
Unless you were Eldar, in which case you were always very good until you got beaten down so bad.
I mean, that was one of those, I didn't think it worked that way situations when they released that. Again, but there's things you can't plan for because you don't have, thousands and tens of thousands of people across the world literally trying to figure out how to break your game.
Yes.
That's just, they just don't have that that resource at the company when they're developing things, because it looks good on paper until someone's like, oh, guess what it actually does in the context when I put all these parts together, and they go, crap.
Oh, we didn't mention, we didn't mean that.
Yeah.
So, and you have to give them a pass on that too. It's such a triple-edged sword where you want to have outside feedback as much as you can. However, you have to gauge that feedback. You don't know what the skill level of the person is when it's anonymous.
Yeah.
When you're getting feedback from top players, they're top players because they're incredibly competitive. Mm-hmm. And they don't represent the 98% of the players of your game. Mm-hmm. And how do you balance all that? If I knew, I'd obviously be $1 billion game salesman guy, but I don't think anybody has access to that sort of perfect knowledge. So all we can do is hope that they seem to have captured what they have. Just from looking at all their spotlights so far, I haven't seen anything that I've looked at and said, wow, that's broken.
Yeah.
Or that's a lousy rule. Mm-hmm. I've not seen anything that made me think. I think the unit cards are a little busy, mm-hmm. but I do think they capture all the information you need to play. Yeah. Which is awesome. I don't know. I'm so hopeful. I'm so looking forward to it. It's going to be, we're going into a new edition. Go into it with an open mind and understand that there's going to be, oh my God, we did not realize that Nighthaunt did this thing that actually breaks a core rule that is just, we have to nerf them on day one. We didn't see this. We didn't see it when it went to print. Here's the new rule. Understand that's going to happen. Look at, 40K and Eldari, and understand that sometimes GW attaches more importance to certain mechanics than others.
Yeah.
They have this tendency to believe that dice manipulation doesn't really affect the game state that much, when in reality, anytime that you can manipulate dice, you have a leg up on your opponent, period.
Yeah.
So let's be ready for that.
Yeah, it's going to be different in a way that no other edition has been, because they've been very clear. There is a baseline unit.
Yes.
Right? There is a baseline 4-4-4-4-4 everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And then like sort of the either eliteness or hordiness of a unit, right, causes them to fluctuate from the baseline. And I think that as we've been talking about, each unit has its role. You have to be very cognizant of how far you drift either direction from that baseline, to really comprehend the role of those units. The one thing, as you just talked about, dreading. What am I dreading, right? With the new edition is, and I not so directly stated it, but battle tomes making that particular army the best army in the game at that moment, right? I mean, certainly it's going to give you more tools than you had before, particularly because there's going to be new model releases. We've already seen that new Rat Terror thing, which is, holy cow, that looks like it's going to beat face, right? So we know that there's going to be new models with new effects, right, when they come out. But so long as they don't stray too far, as long as they keep that core design concept, right, that the layered modules of the game are what progress it further.
Yeah.
And you don't have something that walks in and be like, oh, this is attached to a particular module, and if you do not have this module, right, you can't play with your toy.
Yeah.
So being cognizant of that. I mean, of course, you could take magic out now, that's pretty cool. One thing I do like that they did, though, is made it so your manifestations, you can literally go punch spells, right? So for people who don't want to cast magic, they can go beat up magic.
Yes.
Which gives you a somewhat of an equalizing effect.
An alternative.
Yeah.
It's such a welcome addition. Oh, I agree completely. I believe that the Stormcast and the Skaven books will be very, very balanced, both inside and against each other.
Yeah.
My fear is Battle Tome number 3.
Yep.
Is what is that going to bring? And it's probably, it won't rear its ugly head until we get to probably Battle Tome 8 or 9, where some of the original lessons may have worn off a little bit and there's more creativity, which could lead to game states being broken. But I'm hopeful, and I just point to 10th edition and I look at all the codexes that have dropped. And like you said, none of them have strayed too far from that center line. Some are slightly more powerful than others.
Yeah.
But they're costed in a way that sort of balances that to some extent. They're still figuring things out and understand that in AOS it will be the same way.
Yeah.
They are still going to have to play with points on a regular basis to balance things out. But for me, the idea that magic is modular, you can pull magic out of the game. Okay, quite literally, what do you then do with some of these factions that are based on magic? How will they play in that environment?
Well, I mean, I think that's where the designers, right, have probably taken a lot of time. I don't know. We'll see when everything comes out and we can understand.
Well, and I also think it comes down to list building too, because if you know going into a game that there's no magic, you're obviously not going to take 4 Sorcerers of Tzeentch on discs.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. That's a dumb call. So I love the set of options they're throwing out on the table, and I look forward to it.
I mean, I think it just even conceptually though, like a lot of the armies that like would otherwise be like, we're very magic oriented. They have their non-magic strengths. Like
Yes.
think to Lumineth with the Alarith,
Yeah.
right? If you're gonna do beat face cow dudes, right? You don't need the magic.
Right. You don't care.
If you're playing Sylvaneth, the Kurnothi, you don't need your magic, right?
Nope.
You just go in and fight face.
Yes.
Having priests, being modular too.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much fun play there, and I think that's where like it's going to get very interesting is when the TOs actually start removing, modules for this tournament.
Yes.
What can you do where the only like quote spell thing is a priest, right? The only one that can, petition to the gods is a priest, and you have no wizards.
Yeah.
And there's so many factions that don't even necessarily have priests, but they have something to help combat them.
Yes.
Which is going to be great. I mean, that's where I'm really excited is the modularity. Now, what I'm dreading too is that they do not support the narrative side of it. I don't know. I haven't looked at the book yet, right? Or the rules or anything.
Yep.
I want to see what they're saying because they took great pains with 40K to be like, here is your separate crusade book. Here is your completely separate narrative manual.
Yes.
Here is Pariah Nexus. Here's, and they are doing work in 40K for the narrative, which generally speaking, other than the grand narrative, you don't hear a lot about the narrative in 40K narrative play because it's all tournament heads, right?
Yes.
My fear is that they like they did at the end of third, they're sort of like nodding towards Path to Glory. It's like, yeah, that was a thing we did before.
Yeah.
And you can still kind of play that if you want to, but it's really just like the main game with just certain modules. I'm scared in the way that the type of thing that you and I really like to play, that we talked about ad nauseum on this podcast,
Yes.
right, is going to become just sort of that little side thing.
Well, even if it is marginalized by the company, I honestly think that just from looking at the tools that you have available to you at the outset, again, with the modularity, with all of these other things that you can do, it really lends itself to narrative play, whether or not they embrace it from their level. And there's always that issue when the company puts out narrative stuff, people feel like it has to be played that way. And that's the only thing you can do. And then you get into the AOS Narrative Network and you start talking to narrative TOs, and there's all these other ideas about what to add, what to take away, what mechanics you can add to the game to make it a more narrative experience. And I think this edition will really allow them to do that, maybe not so much in the Path to Glory way, where it's focused and it's very didactic, if you will, that this is how it has to be played, period. Where they can now have the opportunity to drop in a narrative module that says all of a sudden these things are in play, these things are not, and take it for what it's worth, adjust it to your needs. And I think they can embrace that or not at their leisure because of the way the core game is structured.
So I'm not discounting Neos, of course, right? I think that having modularity built into the core game, right, is probably like a Neo's wet dream, because you can just in how the game is structured, right, have your twists.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, there's no magic in this, but I have wizards in my list. Well, they can't cast spells, so now go play this narrative game. But like what I see with like the Tyrannic War, right, or Pariah Nexus, what I'm looking for in those is not so much here's how you play the narrative part of the game. I think there needs to be that more open narrative core concept in the core rulebook, right? But these are campaign manuals, right? So we want to play this campaign, and having a structured campaign like that, with a story and a purpose, I think helps, where it's not just I need to create everything, and that's fine.
It kickstarts,
So it's, if you want to work through this storyline and see the possibilities that come out of it, giving Neos the ability to have that, like, let's just play this campaign, right? And even testing that out, at with your local group before going to the actual event, you could then either take ideas from it, right? Maybe a different way to look at things. I think there should be that core openness, right? Concepts of D&D, right?
Yeah.
Like the core of D&D is like, other than the basic structure of the game, right? Do whatever.
Yeah.
And then you get the campaign manuals, right? We're like, okay, we're going to play this campaign, which is like Baldur's Gate, right? You're playing this campaign, and that's fun.
Yes.
Because it doesn't necessarily put you on rails, right? But it gives you guideposts.
Yeah, and I think that's the track they're going to go down with narrative in AOS, is make it as they'll flesh it out as much as they can without putting these just let's face it, if you wanted to play a Path to Glory game at the local store, you were going to have people that picked certain factions because of their Path to Glory being far easier than others. Mm-hmm. You were going to have people that just played the flavor out of it like crazy and run into that other person that played it for the min-maxing and have basically a non-fun time. Mm-hmm. And by doing things the way they're doing it now, I think they're going to eliminate a lot of that min-maxing capability by just saying, hey, here's these sets of narrative modules that you can drop in or not at your leisure and have a lot of fun with. And here's the book that has, please God, in the next couple of months, release that book and give us all those options. Give us something to build off of, or in the case of local stores and local venues, just use it as the framework and say, here's what we're doing. Everybody has access. Everybody knows what it is. Boom, let's do it. And you're not doing a bespoke narrative campaign that, has to have its own pack with rules and all this. Yeah. No, it's all here. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that's the tack they take. It seems like it.
I think Spearhead lends itself well to narrative too.
Oh dear God. Just grow lists from based on Spearheads are going to be slow grows from a Spearhead on up. I have to believe that within the first 6 months, every store is going to be doing one of those. Boom, you start with a Spearhead and you add 500 points a week or, whatever it is. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I guarantee they're doing something like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, not even that. If they just had like a Spearhead, you don't grow. You don't grow from there.
Oh, even just a league.
Like a league, a narrative league. I think Spearhead's going to be, for a lot of people, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about this after dark, but I think it's going to end up being one of the preferred tournament methods this edition because of what it is.
The speed with which, honestly, in a day where you would get 3 games of AOS, you could realistically have 6 Spearhead games. And that might be a little much for you to wrap your head around. I mean, in a tournament environment, but I could easily see a 5-day tournament, a 5-game tournament in one day.
Yeah. And
that's going to lead to, with a crowd of 64, that will give you a clear winner. Mm-hmm. And is that not a TO's dream? An organized event. I'm talking LVO, Nova. Is that not a dream for those people to be able to run a 1-day tournament that you can charge money for and basically wrap it up in a day?
Yeah.
And if you have your big hall that you have for the main tournament for AOS, where you have 200 tables, you could have 2 of these tournaments running side by side.
Oh, yeah.
And just be raking in the cash. This could turn tournaments into money making. It's.
I mean, thinking like hour and a half, like time stop, like hard stop, hour and a half.
90-minute games.
90-minute games, 5 games, in the whole tournament.
Yeah.
Right. It's 7.5 hours.
Yeah.
Right. With a lunch, with breaks and everything, that's like, it's absolutely perfect.
You're talking about a 10 to 12 hour day, which is a campaign day during a tournament anyway.
Maybe even a little less than that.
Could be.
Because, particularly like things will get whittled down pretty quickly.
And you're not going to burn out near as much because you're not running a 2,000 point army. You're running 2 to 3 units, maybe. You are going to learn what they do.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you are me, dense as a rock, you're going to know what your units do midway through the third game.
Yeah.
Period. And by that time, you won't be looking everything up, and you'll just be playing the games quickly. And that's, again, that's what I'm really looking forward to is being able to put that Night Haunt army on the table, knowing that it's balanced against what it goes up against, and knowing what my units do inside and out, and then going from there and adding all this and all that to get to the 2,000 point army that I play.
Yeah.
At a, I don't want to say competitive level because I never have, but it's going to be perfect. Okay. The hyperbole of the beginning of an edition. It's perfect. It's wonderful. Yes, it's going to be better than it has been. So
I agree. And well, I think we'll have a lot more thoughts on that next week.
We really will. When we start to digest these rules and the faction packs, the Grand Alliance packages that are going to come out. And again, think about this. GW is putting out the rules and all the armies for free. Yeah. When has this happened? I mean, obviously third, but
Oh, they did for 40K, right?
Yeah, this is such a departure, and it's such a welcome. Hey, you don't have to spend anything to get into this game. If you have the units, play the game.
Yeah. So we'll definitely have more for you to listen to in 2 weeks from now, I guess. This will come out, at launch and stuff, so you can kind of see where we're at with things or where we're at with things.
Oh, a dad joke from you.
Now I made you the victim of my own dad joke.
Yes.
So yeah, I look forward to what we're going to really be able to start discussing next week. And with a new edition comes lots of thoughts and lots of new things for us to mull over. So I think
be ready for anger, hate, vitriol, and absolute fawning over how wonderful it is. So, and just, go into it with an open mind and enjoy it. Don't read into what's not there and what is there. So shall we?
Yeah. So for those of you listening here, I'll hope you join us after dark, but if not, join us next week. We're going to have a launch going.
The music in the show is used courtesy of Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com and is used under the Creative Commons license. The Rolling Bad podcast itself is protected under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. Information for this license can be found at creativecommons.org.